everyone, welcome to reading. Today is Wednesday and I'm super excited to take all that we learned on Monday and bring it into what we are learning today. And I quickly want to review our focus question, which is how did Ruby Bridges make a difference in the world? And then our objective for this week's lesson is we will be able to describe how authors use reasons to support specific points. And like we learned on Monday, that involves 4 steps. We think about what the topic is of the text we are reading. We think about what the key point is that we are reading, which is the main idea that the author wants to share. Then we can find details in the text that help to support, or like we learned on Monday, provides evidence for the key point. And then we explain how those details help us understand the key point, how they help us understand what the author is really wanting us to share. So before we get started in our Read for Deeper Meaning, I'm going to quickly review the story. You're more than welcome to go back to Monday's video to read the story again, but I'm just going to quickly go through the story. Okay, remember that Ruby Bridges is our main character. This is her story. She moves when she's a little girl from Tylertown, Mississippi. Hello, Miss Foster. To New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay, she grows up very poor. A judge tells her that she is going to be moving to an all-white school. Very, very, very few Black children were going to traditionally white schools at this time. She's going to go to first grade in William Franz Elementary. She knows this is a very important part of history. There are white people and very angry mobs that are not happy that she's going to this new school where most of the white children go. But she's very brave. Marshals take her into school. She goes to school all by herself for about a year with her wonderful teacher, Miss Henry. Her spirits are up. She stays brave and strong, and she's ready to learn every day, even though people are not treating her kindly. She even prays for the people that hate her, which is very, very important. Ruby Bridges is an amazing girl. Okay, so this was our story. And what I really want to focus on today is page 25, which is the afterword. So let's keep reading it together. So this is page 25. It is the afterword in our story. Okay, and it's telling us some information about what life was like for Ruby after this time of her life as a child. So I'm going to read it and follow along with me as I go. Later that year, 2 white boys joined Ruby at the Franz Elementary School. Their parents were tired of seeing the boys get into mischief around the house when they could have been in school and learning. The mob became very angry when the first white students went back to school. But those boys were soon joined by other children. Oh, okay, so after a year of being all by herself, white parents eventually said, you know what, this is not right to keep our students from learning. We're going to send them to school with Ruby. I'm sure she was so excited. We've been sitting back and letting our children get cheated out of an education because some people have tried to take the law into their own hands, one parent said. It's time for us to fight for the side of the law and for our children's right to go to a school and get their education. They all did get their education, Ruby and a growing number of boys and girls who went to school with her. By the time Ruby was in 2nd grade, that is how old you all are, the mobs had given up their struggle to scare Ruby and defeat the federal judge's order that New Orleans schools be desegregated so that children of all races might be in the same classroom. Okay, so desegregated is the opposite of segregated. So desegregated means that all children, no matter their skin color, can be in the same school and learn together. Year after year, Ruby went to France school. She graduated from it, then went on to graduate from high school. Ruby Bridges is married to a building contractor and has 4 sons. Now a successful businesswoman, she has created the Ruby Bridges Educational Foundation. With its focus on education, community, and the future of our nation's children, the foundation is especially dedicated to revitalizing the William Franz School, which is located in the heart of Ninth Ward in New Orleans. Ruby is once again stepping into the forefront and embracing an opportunity to make history by contributing to the challenge that our nation is facing in the recovery efforts following Hurricane Katrina. There is also a special exhibit, which is a place in like a museum, featuring Ruby's story at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis in Indianapolis, Indiana, called The Power of Children, Making a Difference. All right, so this handout should look familiar to you as it is what we worked on Monday, but this is now the Read for Deeper meaning portion of our lesson, which means it is your turn to do the thinking. So let's read the directions. Find and record a key point from the story of Ruby Bridges. Then list details that support the key point and explain how those details help you understand. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time to think. What is the key point of this story? What is the main idea that the author is wanting to share with you about the topic? We went over this on Monday. I'll give you a few seconds to think. The key point of the story is that Ruby Bridges has made a difference in the world. Because of her, life is different for all of us in the world. Okay, so that is the key point. That's the main idea the author shared. Now we need to look for details. Remember, details are pieces of information in the text. We're going to be looking at page 25, the afterword that we just read. Okay, what are some details on that page that show us how Ruby Bridges has made a difference in the world? These are going to be key details, okay, because they are details that support the key point, okay? So, I'm going to give you a few moments to think. Based off of this page, can you think of any details that show us how she's made a difference in the world? I'll give you a few seconds to think. Think back to all we read on this page. Let's look at paragraph 1. Later that year, 2 white boys joined Ruby at the Franz Elementary School. Okay. It then says, we've been sitting back and letting our children get cheated out of an education. It's time for us to fight for the side of the law and for our children's right to go to a school and get their education. So, what is this detail? If I was to pick a detail from this paragraph that supports my key point that Ruby Bridges has made a difference, what would that detail be? I'm going to say that the detail is that Ruby helped to open her elementary school to children of all races. Meaning that no matter their skin color, she helped to make sure that her elementary school was a place where black kids and white kids could all come to school together. So that is our detail. How does it support our key point? Well, it is an example that helps me understand, always focusing on that, helps me understand how Ruby made a difference as a child. And I'm going to underline child. Okay? So let's keep going. What's another detail that teaches us how Ruby Bridges makes a difference in the world? So we're looking back now more at the third, fourth, and fifth paragraph. Okay? So it talks about, let me skim. Let's see, now she's married, she's a businesswoman. She created the Ruby Bridges Educational Foundation, and it focuses on education, community, and the future of our nation's children. And it's dedicated to revitalizing the William Franz School. Okay, this is a big key detail because it definitely tells me how Ruby Bridges has made a difference in the world. So I'm going to write as my next detail, the Ruby Bridges Educational Foundation. And how does it support the key point? Well, it's an example, and it helps me understand how Ruby has made a difference as an adult. So the first detail told me how she's made a difference as a child. Now it's teaching me how she's made a difference as an adult. Thank you, page 25. Okay, our third detail. What is another detail that supports my key point and shows me how she has made a difference in the world? Let's see. So this page talks about her educational foundation. Let's look at the last paragraph. There is also a special exhibit featuring Ruby's story at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis called The Power of Children, Making a Difference. That is a key detail because she is definitely making a difference in the world with her exhibit at this Children's Museum. So I'm going to say exhibit at the Children's Museum in Indianapolis, which is a city in a state called Indiana. And how does this show me that she's made a difference in the world? How does this detail support my key point? It is an example again, so many examples on this page, that shows me how Ruby's story can inspire other children. Shows me how Ruby's story can inspire other children. Wow, this is so neat to see how all of these details helped me understand the key point, which is that Ruby Bridges has made a difference in the world. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right, so that wraps up this part of the lesson. So go ahead and click into the next section, and I will post another video telling you how to complete your TDQ. See you in a second.